We're going to shift gears to state race. At this time, we will have the candidates for State House District Seat 10, which is all of Nowata County, all of northern Washington County, and southern Washington County, excluding the central part of Bartlesville, and a very small portion of Osage County. At this time, I would allow 2-minute opening by Travis Dunlap.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Travis Dunlap. I would first like to thank you all for coming and giving your time to this. It is obvious by your presence that you care about what happens in your state and in your county. I'd also like to thank the organizers of this event. Thank you to the Nowata Chamber for having this event. I am a 4th-generation resident of this area, and because of that, I am being raised in this area. I believe I have a good perspective on what District 10 residents think the proper role of government should be in their day-to-day lives. I'm a believer in limited government, as the founders were. I'm running on a platform of life, freedom, family, and opportunity. Life first, because although I am not a single-issue voter, I understand and recognize that if somebody will not acknowledge along with me that life begins at conception and continues on till natural death, we have a different starting place in all of our decision-making. I believe our definition of life comes from our Creator, and I want to acknowledge that. I don't get to decide that. Freedom also. Our freedom comes from God. It's endowed by God. It isn't given by any state, and I want to enact principles and best practices that honor that and honor the freedom that's given to us by God. Family as well. I am a proponent of the traditionally defined marriage, which Oklahomans have also voiced as what they want. However, recently a judge in Denver decided that what the people of Oklahoma wanted to do in terms of acknowledging our Creator was not good. And so he has overruled our will. I am also one who wants to promote opportunity. And opportunity is the key to so much of what we need to do in this area. Opportunity, I believe, is God's work because it brings so many benefits to the quality of life in our area. And so I want to be a representative on your behalf to work with those job creators in our state and to do what we can to promote this area and to bring a good lifestyle. Travis Dunlap is the name. November 4th is the day. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Must have a stopwatch. You got that right on time, didn't you? Our next candidate for District 10 House seat is Anthony Tucker.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. Thanks to Adam for being here in the chamber for putting this on. For those who have known me, most of you have been to most of the forums throughout this whole event. I've been to most of them that I can. I will tell you that Nowata County is very near and dear to my heart. Though my family is a proud Dewey Bulldogger, and they have a strong history there. My great-grandma, Golda Tucker, better known as Goldie, she actually grew up in Chelsea, Oklahoma, and she rode a train from Chelsea to Nowata, to Katy train station down there to the depot. And then she rode a wagon to Dewey, Oklahoma to work for Jacob Bartles. And her and her aunt actually worked in the cafeteria there at the Dewey Hotel for Jacob. That's after he took the barge and left Bartlesville, if you guys have read that history. So I will tell you that Nowata's always been special to me. In the past 2 years, I've worked in economic development in this area. First, through the state of Oklahoma. In the state of Oklahoma, I served as a small business advocate, traveling throughout the state, giving presentations on growth initiatives, especially within rural counties. And the first time I came to Nowata after my boyhood, I was listening about a program called Entrepreneur Ready Community. And that was a program to help corral all of your assets that you have to help support your businesses here in Nowata County. And the first time I came here, I thought, man, I don't want to leave. And 2 years later, I'm still here. They probably want to get rid of me, but I'm still here. I helped the Nowata County Industrial Authority Board, better known as Grow Nowata now. I helped create the Nowata.com website within the past couple months. I helped with the community branding. I helped create opportunities because let me tell you a stat. With the demographic and workforce report that I've created that will come out next week, only 16.6% of Nowata County residents work in Nowata County. That tells me you need opportunities. And for the past 2 years, I've been working with leadership, not just me doing it all. I've been working with leadership to build opportunities here in Nowata County. Because at the end of the day, you need a leader for you. And I am the leader for Nowata County that you need down at Oklahoma City. My name is Anthony Tucker, and I appreciate your vote November 4th.
They got practice and 2 minutes down. Any questions from the audience?
I don't expect you to answer this question, but I'm going to ask you anyhow. There's Tulsa and Oklahoma City and the rest of us. And it's called state sales tax. And there's nothing that chaps me more than going over to Bartlesville and paying sales tax to Bartlesville. Now, I know both Steve and John have tried to, get it equally distributed, but they haven't been successful. Do you have any ideas what you would do to get more sales tax that we spend in other areas back in Nowata?
We'll start with that.
Yeah, the answer is forming those coalitions, forming the coalitions of small communities and forming the coalitions of the medium-sized communities in the area. There's no need to play favorites in the distribution of those dollars, and so the answer is to be part of the team that Earl Sears in District 11 is, and John Ford in the Senate district in this area is, to be part of those teams and to advocate for the smaller rural areas. I think that's the answer.
I honestly think this is something we've been working on with the Nowata County Industrial Authority, is keeping those dollars local. This is something that I had an issue with in Rogers County working in economic development, is how do we keep those dollars from leaking outside the community? I actually taught business workshops right here in this classroom, in this library, about how to market yourself online, because people are going online first to find where the products are at. They're buying from Amazon. They don't know the local options that you have here in Nowata County. I've been business to business and found out myself. I think we need to educate not only older people who have more discretionary money than the younger people, but we need to get those younger people, really prideful of their community. That's it. Build the pride around Nowata County, and I think we've got that upswing right now, and we just need to go on it. We don't need to rely on people in Oklahoma City to decide. I think we decide our own fate here. That's local control if you want local control. So let's support our businesses here, and if there's entrepreneurs, let's make sure we support them so they can become what? Bigger job creators, so people have more money, who can spend more money at where? Your local businesses. Let's educate the people here in Nowata County about the great things that you have.
I'm going to follow up on your question because I worked really hard on that a few years ago with a different candidate. And I think the gist of his question is like you said, Anthony, only 16% of us work in this county. So we're in other counties, other cities to work, so we buy our goods and services in those areas because we no longer have them available here. At one time we did have a Nowata. Before that, we had a Sharps, a TG&Y, Western Auto, Otasco, and those are all gone because of marketing strategies. I think the gist of your question is, would you support legislation that earmarked those tax dollars at your point of purchase for your zip code, right?
Yeah, that's how you gonna get around to Tulsa and Oklahoma City, your fellow representative. Martinsville doesn't want to share those sales taxes with us.
And it goes for their infrastructure. So would you, my question,
How you gonna do it?
my question would be, would you support legislation to return a small portion of those sales tax dollars to your zip code? Let's start with that.
I think yes. I mean, I've been a proponent of helping stop the urban migration that has been happening since 1980. I think we're letting our rural communities become ghost towns here in Oklahoma. We need to provide support for them, so yes. But I think it all starts with buying local. You as a consumer, you can stop that leakage by buying local.
Okay.
Yes, I would concur, buy local, and that really is the best solution, is buy local, promote local business activity, and only go outside where you need to go outside. I would need to look at the legislation that's offered and have discussions about how that's going to be carried out. We always, when we ask questions, we ask, who are we regulating? And if our regulations that we want to put into place are going to be a burden on small businesses, I don't necessarily want to have a part of that, because small businesses, of course, are where our growth happens and where our growth where our hope lies in terms of economic development. And so we need to look at the specifics of that legislation, and if those specifics are in a really good place for our state and for our constituents, I'll be for it.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
A comment, not a
Comment?
question, but a comment. I put a lot of miles in my little blue truck. I got over 500,000 miles on it now. It's parked out on the lot. So buying local is a really good idea. But sometimes buying local, you're dealing with what appears to be greedy people. In Nowata, if I have enough gas to get to Bartlesville or 15 miles south of here, I can buy 20 to 40 cents a gallon cheaper on the same gas I buy here in town. So maybe we need to talk to our local business people about this buy local idea. That's my comment.
Any other questions? Both of you know that education is near and dear to my heart. A study just came out that ranked Oklahoma last in per student expenditures. What is your commitment to increasing the funding for per student dollars in Oklahoma? And we'll start with Anthony.
I think that, and I've been very vocal about this, that funding per pupil here in Oklahoma is one of the most essential things that I can do during my 2-year term for you. I honestly think that there's a lot of different incentive programs that we offer through the Department of Commerce for economic development that aren't bringing a bang for our buck, and they're uncapped. We need to cap those programs and aren't bringing a return, aren't creating jobs that wouldn't be created without that incentive, and put it towards education. Only 34% of fiscal year 2015's budget is earmarked for common education or K through 12. And I will tell you that it's even worse for higher education. I can tell you, going to Rogers State University and being the first in my family to receive a bachelor's degree, that Rogers State University operates on the same appropriations from 1997, before Stratton Taylor and my mentor, Dr. Larry Rice, turned it into a 4-year institution. So it's operating on the same funds. Look at their budget. Over like 52% of it comes from private donors. And where does the buck get passed on to? The students. Then those students get left with what? More debt. And we wonder why. Why do people have debt? Where we're setting them up for failure going through our higher education institutions. I will tell you that the smartest and brightest individuals that are in the Oklahoma high schools, here in Nowata High, Oklahoma Union, and South Coffeyville, and over in Washington County, they're looking at going elsewhere where they have more opportunities, because if they're going to go ahead and pay higher tuition here, they want to pay a little bit more to go to California and have more opportunities versus what I have here in Oklahoma.
The providing for common education is a basic function of our state government, and so it must be done. It must be done in competition with those states around us who are funding and who are producing students that are successful. So we need to follow best practices. We need to make sure that our state legislature is always looking for those, stretching those funds that we need to use in education, and we need to make sure that education is funded and competitive with areas around us.
Any other questions from the...
Do we pay our school superintendents too much money?
Is that a loaded question? I don't think so.
Question to the candidates.
2 minutes.
What specific things would you do if you were elected into this office to implement and bring forth to Nowata County? Because that's where I live, and I'm one of the 16% that leaves, and I want to come back. Then you talk about our children in the schools and everything. What specific ideas do you have to bring long-term industry to this county where there is so much room to grow, so many assets that we have, railroad, highways, how far from Catoosa, and what kind of training are you going to work with, such as our Tri-County Tech? My husband got his welding certificate there. They used to have an HVAC. The job that I work in, we are constantly needing good people who can do plumbing, electrical, HVAC. These jobs are no longer available because of the small town diminishing and everybody moving out. And again, it does go back to buy local, and it goes back to, well, you've got to have local people that are going to be able to stay in business without charging higher prices, because it's a vicious circle. And what kind of ideas do you have to implement that, to bring something here besides entertainment that's a real job for people to work at and earn a living wage and keep people here and provide training for other people to move into, because you've got to have something besides just, you gotta go do something besides work at fast food or work at Walmart. So what are your ideas on that?
And we'll start from this point.
Great. Specifically, I think one of the greatest things that you can ask from your state representation is to stand up to the federal bureaucracies that are weighing down so many of the industries. One great recent example is the pipeline that recently went through this part of the state, went through our district in some places. You know, Oklahoma Tri-County Tech System did such an amazing job training those people that those people went to other states to keep working on the pipeline in different areas. And so our tech system in particular is superb, and we need to stay committed to that. And as those people stand up to the regulations that EPA is putting on people, to the minor tax increases that are allowed to expire, if we have representation that will stand up to that and say, you are hurting our businesses here in this state, then perhaps we can communicate to the world at large, Oklahoma is open for business. But we need somebody who's going to stand up to the federal government and understand that growth in bureaucracy is growth in tyranny, actually. So we would like to free up the opportunities by standing up to these overly heavy regulations that are coming down to us. So specifically, I will be part of a system that stands up to that, and then do the best we can to create and to promote and attract those businesses that create long-term employment opportunities. So I'm happy to be endorsed by job creators here in Oklahoma: Chesapeake Energy, Devon Energy, ConocoPhillips, the State Chamber of Oklahoma, the Tulsa Chamber, Oklahoma City Greater Chamber of Oklahoma. They've endorsed my candidacy, and I think it's because they understand that I'm somebody who's going to stand up to some of these bureaucracies and see what we can do to fight back from their overregulation of our industries.
I think it's more specific what you're asking. You're asking about things happening here in Nowata County, and those are the things we're working on in the Nowata County Industrial Authority right now. It's workforce development. You know, over there, the Strategy Center at Tri-County Tech, they offer great programs for workforce development. But our kids, it is starting with youth, pumping new workers into the system, not just workers that are already there. And we're not educating them well enough about those careers in manufacturing. My background's in manufacturing. That's where I got my start, at Lucas Metalworks in Ochaleta, Oklahoma, with what, 423 people. We grew from 23 employees to 50 in my 2 years. And it was by creating opportunities, growing, not ever saying we can't do this. But I will tell you that programs that I've helped implement here or are being implemented in the future, such as Road Trip for Teachers, is a program through the Oklahoma Manufacturing Alliance. I'm very close with them. I presented at the state conference on manufacturing after the governor on modernizing the way that manufacturers communicate with their audiences. And that program, pretty much what it does is it takes all 3 school districts that have an in-service day, and you get those teachers on a bus, and you bus them around to 3 major manufacturers in your county. And so they can learn about the jobs that are needed there, the average pay, because the average pay for an individual that works in manufacturing is over $61,000 in Oklahoma. That's a pretty good paycheck, right? And I will tell you, most of those individuals, they have an advanced certificate degree from where? A career tech. And they have what? Little debt, right? And they're making good money, and they have good opportunity for growth within those positions. And I will tell you that is a program that we are working on bringing here to Nowata County. I actually started those conversations with Manufacturing Alliance because I'm already here in the county doing these things. I haven't been elected to do it. I'm doing it on my own free will. And I will tell you, yes, there's regulations from the federal government. There's regulations from the state government. There's always going to be regulations that we're going to be bickering about, but we should take care of things that we can here. Let's do everything we can. I like to be self-sustainable. I don't like to rely on anybody for anything. I don't like to ask anybody for money. If I need something, I do it myself. I have 3 jobs. I run a small business, a marketing agency for what? Manufacturers. So I'm in manufacturing. I run that. I work as a head varsity soccer coach at Potterville, Kansas, up at Phil Kinley, and have 43 kids that I take care of on a daily basis. And I also serve the Nowata County Industrial Authority Board. And I'm very busy doing those things. But guess what? I get to work with kids, I get to work in manufacturing, and I get to help grow Nowata County. And I can tell you those opportunities you're talking about, they're coming, and we are trying. I invite you to come out to some of our industrial authority meetings and hear about the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, because the most appealing things you hear are the new website, the new branding, the video that came out. But there are things that we just don't talk about sometimes, and we should talk about more, because the other things are visually appealing. You can see them, you can feel them, they're tangible, but it's the intangible things that you can't see that's going behind the scenes that I know that I'm working on, and my friends up at Grow Nowata are working on, and I think that's kind of cool.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
Speaking of big government, did either of you gentlemen vote for Barack Obama for president?
I'll gladly answer that. I was in Cambodia at the time. I was serving as a missionary with the Southern Baptist Church, and I voted absentee ballot. And the way you vote absentee ballot in Cambodia is that you register with the county election board. They emailed me the ballot. I printed out the ballot, and I had to fax the ballot after I'd filled it out, proudly for the Republican nominee, Mitt Romney. And I went to a small internet shop in the very grungy part of Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia, and I paid them $2. I decided it was a good donation. $2 to fax my ballot back into the election board, and I called the election board the next day to ensure that they got it, and they did. So I did not vote for Obama.
Well, I was here in Oklahoma. I was in Claremore getting my undergraduate degree, and no, I did not vote for President Obama. That's just how it goes. I did not vote, so no vote on that.
Any other questions from the audience?
You want another one?
I'm sorry.
Please.
How are we going to compete against Texas? Taxes?
You want me to go first?
Mr.
Okay. In Oklahoma, we're in an interesting situation between two states whose use of tax is very different from ours. And so I do favor the gradual reduction of the Oklahoma personal income tax. I'm in favor of the vote that has taken place recently, and we may get to vote on it again, so I'll be happy to do that. But what it does is, as income into the state government triggers as being sufficient to fund the government programs that we need to fund, then an income tax is triggered that I support, and I think that is something that encourages continued growth in our state. And so I'm proud to support them. I think income tax reductions have been a story of growth in this country, or in this state, sorry. And I will continue to support such measures. And by doing so, we will be dynamic in our creation of economic activity, and we will be more competitive with the states around us.
I also think that the tax cuts should be going to the middle class, the people that do not have the discretionary funds. Because those are the people who keep local businesses and keep local communities like Nowata alive and ticking. So those are the people who deserve a tax cut. Do I believe we have enough revenue to sustain the state of Oklahoma with the gradual tax reduction for the top 25%? I do not think we are there. We are cutting programs faster than you can imagine. If you look at fiscal year 2015, look all the programs who are not receiving funding. The Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. They asked for $29 million to operate. They're only getting $2 million. So what does that lead to? More incarcerations, less rehabilitations. And what's happening in our jail systems here in Oklahoma? They're rioting. They can't even keep control of it. So what are we going to do to replace those funds? Yes, we're getting a great amount of sales tax dollars, but you're cutting the largest percent of our revenue by taking away that personal income tax, the gradual reduction of it for that top 25%. Look, Reaganomics doesn't work. I had economics class in college. I'm telling you that the trickle-down effect is not going to work. We need the reduction for the middle class, and that's what I'm going to fight to do, because you guys are the people, most of you probably are middle-class individuals like me, who make a decent salary, but we've got bills, we've got college debt, we've got things to pay. So if you want money pumped back in your community, it's going to be a reduction to the middle class, not a reduction to people who already make enough money to sustain themselves.
Follow up to that statement. How do we compete with Texas, or in the other case, Kansas? Both of those states, Texas has no sales or income tax. Kansas has a very low sales tax. Would you be in favor of shifting, like Texas and Kansas, from a income tax base to an ad valorem taxation like those two states have?
I
No.
went through a well-balanced tax system that's fair to all. Is that too much to ask?
I agree with that.
That's my answer, so.
Yeah, I'll defer to that.
Yeah.
We can increase our ad valorem taxation, and what we need to get away from is thinking a zero-sum game myth. As economic activity is spurred, revenue increases, and that's been the story of the Oklahoma tax cuts. We had a record amount of revenue into the state government this past year. Forgive me, I'm speaking fast, I'm passionate perhaps. But the story of tax cuts has been growth in this state. And so that's something we need to get away from thinking a zero-sum game. We have only a certain amount of dollars that shifts around. So that's all I'll say.
I think the conversation for tax cuts is always there, but it must be done fiscally responsibly. You've got to look at the revenue coming in, and if we've got to compete. We're always competing against everybody. And it's not just people who we geographically border anymore. We're competing against everybody because of the advent of the internet. That's what the truth is. I think there's more things that we can do to tax people who buy products from the internet. Right now, we only tax people who buy products from the internet if that business has a salesperson here in the state of Oklahoma or they have physical presence. So I think we need to look to that. And I think other states, we can piggyback on other states and form a coalition and take some to the federal government and take it to Mr. Langford if he does win, and take it to those individuals and say, hey, because that's where the growth is, because online is just going to keep growing. We need to learn how to get a piece of the pie there. And we can find reductions down the line, but I will tell you right now in Oklahoma, I just don't see the revenue coming in. Even though he talks a record revenue coming in, how come education hasn't got increased funding? How come the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services has short $27 million. So if the funding is coming in, great, show their wealth, but they're not.
If there's no further questions, that was a hint. I will allow both candidates a 1-minute closure, and we'll start with Mr. Tucker.
I want to thank everybody again for coming out in the chamber, and Skylar and John for putting this on. And as you can tell, I'm very passionate about Nowata County. And you know, I haven't been an elected official these past 2 years. I've just been serving you out of my love for the people. My grandpa used to bring me here as a young boy to take me to eat at the Bliss restaurant. And ever since then, I've had a strong affinity. And it's meeting people like Amber and meeting other people here like Tim and seeing the work that you guys are already doing. It makes me buy in. That's what made me start coming back, was you guys were trying so hard to get things right, so hard to turn around. The things that I saw in 2009 and 2010 when I was in college at Rogers State, it made me hurt for you, the things you guys were going for. But now we've got an upswing, and I've been a part of that upswing, and I feel that Grow Nowata and the different initiatives that I've helped start will do that for you. And can you imagine somebody who actually loves and cares for Nowata County in Oklahoma City? Think about the difference that will happen there. So I ask you to elect me based on my knowledge of Nowata County from actually being here, not just living in the area, and on my background in economic development. Thank you.
Thank you all. This has been tremendously fun, and it's wonderful to see your smiling faces and your care and concern and your interaction with our ideas. So I bring to you a set of principles, a set of ideas. I believe they're conservative. I believe they reflect our area and our constituency very well. And so I ask for your vote because I believe it is a vote for conservative Christian values. I believe that I will represent you well in Oklahoma City if given the chance. So Travis Dunlap is the name. November 4th is the day. Please vote and tell your friends to vote as well. Thank you.